That night, I realized something painful, that a wedding could actually ruin two families. My name is Grace Harper, and I am 55 years old. I am a mother of 3 children, but this story is about my first son, Toto. The day of his wedding should have been the happiest day of his life. But it wasn't. I can still remember the smell of lilies in the church, the soft white lights hanging from the ceiling, and the guests smiling as they took their seats. That day, I stood near the altar wearing the navy blue suit my son loved so much. He looked nervous, but he was happy. I was happy too, until it was time for the toast. The bride's father, Mr. Humphrey Sterling, stood up and took the microphone. He was a big man with a deep, heavy voice and the owner of a large construction company. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone respected him, or at least, they thought they did. He raised his glass of champagne and said, "I want to toast my daughter, Emily. She has always been stubborn, even as a child. And today, well, today she insisted on marrying this young man." Some people laughed nervously. Then he added, staring straight at Toto, "That boy is an idiot." The room burst into laughter. But I was watching my son. His face went white, his hands started shaking, and he slowly lowered his eyes. At that moment, my own legs felt weak, like they couldn't hold me anymore. No one else noticed. Everyone kept laughing. Everyone kept drinking and cheering, as if insulting a man on his wedding day was a joke. I squeezed the napkin tightly in my hands, took a deep breath, and understood something very clearly. This man was not going to walk away from this. Because I knew things he believed no one knew. And that night, yes, that very night, I was going to expose everything. But before I tell you what I did, let me explain how I got there. Because this story didn't begin at that wedding. It started months earlier, when a small voice inside me said, "Grace, investigate that man." And I listened. What I discovered later destroyed his entire family. When Toto first told me he had met a girl, I was overjoyed. It was January, and the weather was very cold. We were standing in my kitchen, drinking spiced coffee like we did every afternoon. "Mom, her name is Emily," he said, smiling shyly, just like he used to when he was little. "She's different. She's smart, and she makes me laugh." I watched him closely. He was 28 years old. He worked as a civil engineer at a small but honest company. He was my oldest child, the most serious, the most responsible one. He had never spoken about a woman like this before. "And what does she do?" I asked while stirring my coffee. "She's studying architecture. She's almost done with her degree. Her father owns a big construction company, Sterling and Associates." That was the moment something inside me shifted. Sterling? The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember where I had heard it. "Have you really gotten to know her well?" I asked. "Yes, Mom. We've been together for 3 months now. I want you to meet her. Can I bring her over for dinner on Sunday?" Of course, I agreed. A mother always wants to see her children happy. And Toto looked truly happy. That Sunday, Emily came over. She was beautiful, with long dark hair and big expressive eyes. She dressed simply, but very neatly and with style. She greeted me politely and gave me a warm hug. "Mrs. Harper," she said softly, "thank you so much for inviting me." She brought chicken and rice she had cooked herself, her specialty. I was nervous at first, but Emily helped me set the table. We talked easily. She told me about her studies and her dreams. She wanted to design affordable, environmentally friendly homes for families. I liked her, but when she mentioned her father, her tone changed. "My dad is very demanding," she said quietly, moving the food around on her plate. "He has always wanted me to be perfect, to get the best grades and marry someone on his level." "And what does he think of Toto?" I asked as I poured her some more water. Emily looked down. "I haven't told him we're dating yet." Toto looked surprised. "Emily, really?" She sighed. "It's just, my dad is complicated. He always says men must prove their worth. He doesn't trust anyone who doesn't come from a wealthy family." My stomach tightened. "Toto comes from a good family," I said firmly. "An honest and hardworking family with values. That's worth more than money." Emily looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I know, Mrs. Harper. That's why I love him." Toto held her hand. I smiled, but inside, something felt wrong. That man, Humphrey Sterling, sounded like someone who judged people by money. And I knew men like that. I had seen them all my life. They always hide something. Months passed. Toto and Emily became official. My son was deeply in love. He came home smiling, singing, glowing with happiness. "Mom, Emily understands me," he said often. "She respects me. She doesn't care that I don't own a new car or that I rent my apartment. She says what matters is building a life together." I nodded, but my thoughts always returned to her father. One evening, Toto came home looking serious. "Mom, I need to tell you something." We sat in the living room. Rain tapped softly against the windows, and the sound felt calming. "I'm going to propose to Emily." I felt happy, but also afraid. "Have you met her family yet?" I asked. "Yes. I went to their house for dinner 2 weeks ago." "And how did it go?" He hesitated. "Her dad, Mr. Sterling, is strange. He asked me many questions about my job, my salary, my future plans. He wanted to know how much I earn, how much I've saved, and if I own property." "And what did you tell him?" "The truth," Toto said. "That I earn enough, that I'm saving, and that I don't own a house yet, but I work hard." "And what did he say?" Toto clenched his fists. He said, "Well, son, my daughter is used to a certain lifestyle. Not just anyone can support her." I felt anger rise inside me, but I kept quiet. "And Emily?" I asked. She defended me. She told him I was a good man and that was all that mattered. But her dad just laughed and said, "We'll see about that." That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about that man deeply disturbed me. It wasn't only his pride, it was something darker, something hidden. But I was determined to uncover it. In April, Toto proposed to Emily. She said yes. They cried together. He called me, full of joy. "Mom," she said, "yes. We're getting married." I was truly happy for them. But later that night, alone in my room, I stared out the window and thought, that man is going to try to destroy this. I know it. And I was right. 2 weeks later, Emily came to see me. She was crying. "Mrs. Harper," she said through tears, "my dad says he doesn't want me to marry Toto." I sat her down, made her a cup of chamomile tea, and held her hands gently. "Why?" she asked through tears. "He says Toto has no future. He says he's average, that he'll make me unhappy, and that I'll regret marrying him." "And what do you think?" I asked gently. Emily hesitated. "I love Toto, but my dad is very stubborn, and my mom always follows whatever he says. I'm scared they won't stand by me." I squeezed her hands tightly. "Emily, listen to me carefully. True love does not give up because of fear. If you love my son, then fight for him. And if your father refuses to accept it, that's his problem, not yours." She nodded and wiped her tears. "You're right. I'm going to fight." And she did. Emily went to her father and stood up to him. She told him she was going to marry Toto, with or without his approval. Mr. Sterling had no choice but to agree. But I knew a man like him never truly accepts defeat. And I was right. The wedding plans began. Everyone was happy. Emily was happy too. But Mr. Sterling placed conditions. "I want the wedding at the country club event hall," he told Emily. "I'll pay for everything, but it will be done my way." Toto wasn't comfortable with that. "Mom, I want to pay my share. I don't like depending on him." "I know, my son," I told him. "But sometimes, you have to compromise for the person you love." So he compromised. But I didn't. Because deep inside me, something kept whispering that this man was hiding something big, something dark. One afternoon, while I was drinking coffee at a cafe downtown, I saw something that froze my blood. I saw Humphrey Sterling sitting with another woman and 2 small children. The woman leaned in and kissed him on the lips. The children called him, Dad. I couldn't move. I paid my bill, walked to my car, sat down, and took a deep breath. That was when I knew what I had to do. I was going to investigate that man. Because if he was lying to his wife, his family, and the world, then my son was about to marry into a family built on lies. And I would not allow that. For 3 days, I couldn't sleep properly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same image. Mr. Sterling kissing that woman, the children holding his hands, and the way she looked at him like he was her whole world. Then I thought about his wife, Mrs. Eleanor Sterling. I had met her only twice at the engagement dinners. She was graceful and quiet, always wearing a polite but sad smile, as if she had been carrying a heavy, invisible weight for many years. Now I understood why. But I needed proof. Accusing a powerful man like Humphrey Sterling without evidence could ruin my son's wedding, and I didn't want that. I only wanted to protect him. So I did something I never imagined I would do. I hired a private investigator. His name was Roy Mendez. A friend recommended him after her husband cheated on her years ago. Roy was careful, professional, and discreet. His office was small, located on the second floor of an old building above a dry cleaner. I climbed the stairs one Tuesday afternoon. The hallway smelled of detergent and old coffee. I knocked on the door. "Come in," a deep voice said. I stepped inside. Roy was in his 50s, thin, wearing glasses and a short-sleeved shirt. An old computer sat on his desk, with metal filing cabinets lined up against the wall. "Please, have a seat, ma'am," he said. "How can I help you?" I sat down, took a deep breath, and told him everything. I told him my son was getting married. I told him the bride's father was powerful and arrogant. I told him I had seen that man with another woman and 2 children. And I told him I needed the truth. Roy listened carefully and took notes. He didn't judge me. He didn't ask useless questions. "Do you have a photo of the man?" he asked. I showed him a picture I found online, Mr. Sterling smiling at a construction event like a politician. "Do you know where you saw him with the woman?" "Yes. At a cafe downtown near the main square. It's called the Southern Star." "Do you remember the day and time?" "Last Friday, around 4 in the afternoon." Roy nodded. "I'll need 1 week. I'll follow him and find out everything. If he has another family, I'll prove it. And if there's more, I'll uncover that too." Men who cheat so openly usually hide other things, debts, financial trouble, or illegal business. A chill ran through me. "How much will this cost?" I asked. $5,000 a week, plus expenses. It was expensive, but my son's peace of mind was worth more than money. That week was one of the hardest of my life. Toto came home every day full of excitement about the wedding. He showed me pictures of the venue, the food menu, and the decorations. He and Emily chose White Roses. Their song would be a classic jazz tune. "Mom, will we dance to that song together?" he asked. "Yes," I said softly. "You and me, just like when you were little." I smiled and nodded, but inside I was falling apart. What if Roy's findings destroyed everything? What if Emily suffered because of her father's sins? What if Toto hated me for interfering? Then I remembered Mr. Sterling's words. "I hope you know my daughter is used to a certain standard of living. Not just anyone can support her." My fear turned into anger. That man had humiliated my son from the beginning. He treated him like he wasn't good enough, like he didn't deserve Emily. If I uncovered something, it wouldn't be to ruin the wedding. It would be to protect my son from a family built on lies. That Friday, Roy called me. "Mrs. Harper, I need you to come to my office. I have information." I arrived in less than an hour. I ran up the stairs and walked in without knocking. Roy sat in front of his computer, his face serious. "Please, sit down." My hands were shaking. "What did you find?" I asked. Roy turned the screen toward me. "Mr. Humphrey Sterling has 2 families." I felt the air leave my lungs. On the screen were photos. Mr. Sterling entering an apartment building with the woman, taking the children to school, kissing her in a supermarket parking lot. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Her name is Veronica Campos. She's 32 years old, an accountant, and she works at Sterling and Associates," Roy said. "The children are his, a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. They use their mother's last name." He continued, "Mr. Sterling pays the apartment rent, the children's private school, their clothes, toys, everything." "With what money?" I asked. Roy looked straight at me. "Company money." My world stopped. "What?" I whispered. Roy opened a folder. Inside were bank statements, transfers, and records. "He's been stealing from his company for years. He moves money into personal accounts. He uses company credit cards for personal trips, hotels, and expensive restaurants." "And the company?" I asked. "It's in serious trouble," Roy said. "Debts, lawsuits, unfinished projects, and 2 criminal fraud complaints." I covered my face. "Oh my God. That's not all," Roy added. "What else?" "He has personal debts, 2 maxed-out credit cards, a bank loan over $2 million, and unpaid taxes from 3 years ago." "How much does he owe in total?" Roy checked his notes. "About $12 million. The company is close to bankruptcy. 6 months, maybe a year. I sat there in silence, staring at the photos and papers. Humphrey Sterling wasn't a successful man. He was a liar, a thief, and a fraud. And my son was about to marry into that family. Roy handed me copies of everything. Photos, documents, proof. "What are you going to do with this?" he asked. "I don't know," I said quietly. "I need time to think." He nodded. "The truth is ugly, but now that you have it, you must choose what to do." "If I tell my son now, he might cancel the wedding," I said. "And maybe that's right, but it could also destroy his relationship with Emily." Roy sighed. "If you stay silent, your son will marry into a corrupt family. And when everything collapses, and it will, he'll be caught in the middle." "And if I confront Mr. Sterling?" I asked. Roy shook his head. "He'll deny everything. He'll threaten you. Men like him don't surrender." "So what should I do?" Roy leaned back. "Wait. Watch. And when the right moment comes, act." I left his office carrying a folder full of secrets. I walked slowly through downtown as the sun set behind the buildings. Food vendors turned on their lights. People rushed home. I walked alone, heavy with truth. I thought about Toto, his smile, his joy. I thought about Emily, sweet and innocent. None of this was her fault. I thought about Mrs. Sterling and her quiet sadness. Maybe she already knew. Maybe she had stayed silent for years. And I thought about Humphrey Sterling, his pride, his lies, his cruelty. That's when I made my decision. I would not speak before the wedding. I would wait. And if that man dared to humiliate my son again, I would destroy him with the truth. That night, I got home and hid the folder deep in my closet under old blankets. I sat on my bed and stared out the window. The city lights blinked like distant stars. I took a deep breath. Because I knew what was coming would change everything. The weeks that followed were silent torture. Every time I saw Toto, I smiled. Every time Emily visited, I hugged her. Whenever someone talked about the wedding, I nodded excitedly. But inside, that secret felt like a heavy stone in my chest. I barely slept. I hardly ate. At night, I sat in the kitchen, thinking about the folder hidden in my closet. Sometimes I took it out and reviewed everything, the photos, the documents, the bank transfers. Every lie, every betrayal. And I kept asking myself, why don't I say anything? But the answer never changed. Because if I did, Toto would hate me. He would believe I was trying to destroy his happiness. And Emily would be completely broken if she knew the truth. No, I had to wait. I had to wait for the right moment. And I knew that moment would come. One Saturday morning, Emily called me. "Mrs. Harper, can we meet? I really need to talk to you." "Of course, my dear." "What's wrong?" "It's about my dad. I'd rather explain it in person." We agreed to meet at a cafe close to my house. I arrived early and ordered an Americano. I sat by the window and waited. When Emily arrived, her eyes were red. She had clearly been crying. She sat across from me, took a deep breath, and said, "My dad wants to control everything about the wedding." "What do you mean?" I asked. "He wants to choose the guest list. He only wants important people there. He says he doesn't want common people at his event." Anger rose in my chest. "Common people?" I repeated. Emily nodded and wiped her tears with a napkin. I told him I want to invite Toto's cousins, his aunts and uncles, his college friends. But my dad said, "No, Emily. This wedding is a social event, not a street party." I gripped my coffee cup so tightly I thought it might crack. "And what does your mother say?" I asked. "Nothing," she replied softly. "My mom never says anything. She always does what he says." Exactly as I expected, I thought. "Emily, listen to me," I said, holding her hands. "This is your wedding, not your father's. If he wants to control everything, then maybe you should consider getting married another way." She shook her head. "I can't. My dad threatened not to pay for anything. If I don't follow his rules, there will be no wedding. We don't have the money. It would take us years to save." "Then make it small," I said gently. "Do it with dignity, and with the people you truly love." Emily looked at me with sad eyes so much like her mother's. "Mrs. Harper, I just want my dad to be proud of me. Just once. But no matter what I do, it's never enough for him." My heart broke in that moment. I finally understood something. Emily wasn't only trapped by money. She was trapped by a love she never received from her father. And that was worse than any debt. That afternoon, when I got home, I took out the folder again. I looked at the photos of Mr. Sterling with that other woman, and the children Emily didn't even know existed. And I thought, that man doesn't deserve his daughter's love. But I still couldn't tell her. Destroying the image she had of her father before the wedding would be cruel. She needed strength to walk down the aisle. She needed hope. The truth could wait. 2 weeks before the wedding, there was a rehearsal dinner at the Sterling's house. Toto invited me. I didn't want to go, but he insisted. "Mom, please," he said. "I want you to know Emily's family better. Mr. Sterling says he wants to talk to you." That made me nervous, but I agreed. The Sterling's home was in a very rich neighborhood. It was massive. 3 floors, a garden with a fountain, and a 4-car garage. When I arrived, a staff member opened the door. "Good evening, ma'am. Please come in." I stepped inside. The floors were marble. The walls were covered with huge paintings. Everything smelled like wealth. But I knew the truth. All of it was built on lies. Mrs. Sterling welcomed me in the living room. She was an elegant woman around my age, wearing a beige dress and perfect hair. "Mrs. Harper, it's so lovely to see you," she said, kissing my cheek. Her perfume was expensive, but her eyes looked empty. "Thank you for inviting me," I said. "It's a pleasure. Emily speaks very highly of you." We sat down. There were appetizers, red wine, imported cheeses, everything served by quiet staff. Toto sat beside Emily, holding her hand. She smiled, but I could see the tension in her face. Then Mr. Sterling entered the room. Same arrogance. Dark suit. Gold watch. That salesman's smile. "Mrs. Harper, welcome to our home," he said. I stood up and shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for having me. Please, sit. Dinner will be ready soon. But first, I'd like to make a toast." Mr. Sterling lifted his wine glass. We all did the same. "I want to toast my daughter, Emily," he said, looking at her. "She has always been my pride and joy, smart, beautiful, well-educated. And now, she's about to get married." He paused. Then he looked at Toto. "To a hard-working, humble young man from a good family." The word humble sounded like an insult. Toto lowered his eyes. I tightened my grip on my glass. Mr. Sterling continued, "I hope this marriage marks the beginning of something great. In this family, we value effort, ambition, and hard work." Then he looked straight at me. "Don't you agree, Mrs. Harper?" I met his gaze calmly. "I believe the most valuable thing in life is honesty." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Mr. Sterling smiled, but his eyes went cold. "Of course. Honesty. Very important." We raised our glasses. But I knew what had just happened. I had warned him. And he knew it. During dinner, Mr. Sterling talked endlessly about his businesses. His deals, his contacts, the politicians he knew. "I have a new project," he said while cutting his steak. "A housing development in Houston. 500 homes. My biggest project yet." Mrs. Sterling smiled weakly. "That sounds wonderful, dear. But inside, I thought, with what money? You're drowning in debt." Toto listened with interest. Emily ate quietly. And I watched. I watched how easily Mr. Sterling lied. How his wife pretended everything was fine. How Emily swallowed her pain with every bite. That family lived in a lie. And I was going to expose it. But not yet. Not yet. After dinner, Mr. Sterling asked to speak with me privately. "Mrs. Harper, would you join me in my study?" I nodded and followed him down a long hallway. The room was filled with books he had never read and a massive desk. He closed the door. "Please, sit." I sat. He stayed standing, looking down at me. "I want to talk to you about your son," he said. "He's a good boy, hardworking and respectful, but..." "But what?" I asked. "He has no future," he said plainly. My blood boiled. "Excuse me?" "He has no future," he repeated. "He earns little. He owns nothing. He has no ambition. And my daughter deserves more." I stood up. "My son has something you will never understand," I said firmly. "He has values. He has dignity. And he has real love." Mr. Sterling laughed. "Love doesn't pay the bills, Mrs. Harper." "No," I replied. "But honesty brings peace." He stepped closer. His voice turned cold. "I paid for this wedding. I pay for everything. After the marriage, Emily will still depend on me, because your son can't provide for her." So you should understand who's in charge. I looked straight at him. I understand perfectly who thinks they are in charge. I left his study without another word. Downstairs, Toto saw me. Mom, are you okay? Yes, my son, I said calmly. I'm just tired. Let's go. We said our goodbyes and got into the car. Toto drove in silence. When we reached my house, he spoke softly. Mom, I know Mr. Sterling is difficult. But I'm doing this for Emily. She's worth it. I hugged him. I know, son. I know. But inside, I thought, Humphrey Sterling, your time is coming. Just wait for the wedding day. As I tell you this, I wonder where you are listening from. Have you ever met someone like him? Someone who uses money to control others, who humiliates people in the name of success. Write the name of your city in the comments. I want to know where you're listening from. The week before the wedding was pure chaos. Toto barely slept. He was finishing a major project at work while also handling the final wedding details. I saw him tired, stressed, but still happy. Mom, I'm getting married in a week, he told me, smiling in that way that always melted my heart. I couldn't believe it. I made him coffee, ironed his shirt for the suit fitting, and went with him to buy the rings. All the while, I carried a secret that felt heavier every single day. But something inside me was changing. It was no longer just anger toward Mr. Sterling. It had become a need for justice. The more I watched him, the more I realized this man wasn't only lying to his family, he was lying to everyone. And worse, he enjoyed it. That Tuesday, I got an unexpected call. It was Roy, the investigator. Mrs. Harper, I need to see you. I found something else. What did you find? I asked. I'd rather tell you in person. Can you come to my office this afternoon? I went. I walked up the same stairs I knew so well. The smell of detergent and old coffee was still there. Roy was waiting for me with another folder. Have a seat, he said seriously. I sat down, my hands shaking. What is it? Roy opened the folder and pulled out new documents. I investigated Sterling and Associates more deeply, and I found something serious. What? Mr. Sterling isn't just taking money to support his other family. He's also involved in construction fraud. I gasped. What kind of fraud? 2 years ago, he won a contract to build a housing project in Georgia, 120 affordable homes. The government paid him a $25 million advance. He only built 40 houses. The other 80 were never completed. He kept the money. I felt sick. He claimed there were supplier issues, rising material costs, delays, but it was all a lie. Families paid deposits. They waited for years and never got their homes. There's now a class action lawsuit and an investigation by the Anti-Corruption Bureau. The room felt like it was spinning. When is all this going to come out? Roy checked his notes. Within the next 3 months. Maybe sooner. 3 months? Yes. Mr. Sterling is living his last days of freedom. I stayed quiet. Roy continued. There's more. The company is basically bankrupt. Employees haven't received full pay in 2 months. Equipment has been taken back. 3 projects are frozen. The bank has started loan recovery. And yet he keeps spending like nothing is wrong, I said. Exactly. Last week, he bought a brand new BMW. Paid cash. Where did he get that money? Roy looked straight at me. Most likely from company funds or a hidden account. He's very good at hiding money. I closed my eyes. Does his wife know any of this? I doubt it. She comes from a traditional family. If she knew about the other family, she would have confronted him or left him. There are no signs of that. She's living in deception, like many women married to men like him. I sighed. What else did you find? Roy showed me photos. He visits Veronica's apartment 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He arrives around 7 p.m. and leaves around 11, sometimes later. His wife suspects nothing. I looked at the photos, Mr. Sterling entering the building, kissing Veronica on the balcony, playing with the children in the park, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Disgust. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my bed, staring out the window. The city was quiet. Lights flickered in the distance. The silence was deep. I thought about his excitement. His love for Emily. I thought about Emily, her innocence, her desperate need for a father's love. I thought about Mrs. Sterling, her sadness, her silence. I thought about the secret children growing up without a real father. And I thought about the families who lost their savings, who waited years for homes that never came. That's when I understood something. This was no longer just about protecting my son. This was about justice. Humphrey Sterling had built his life on lies. He crushed everyone in his way. He used money, power, and arrogance to escape consequences. Until now. On Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the wedding, I visited a friend named Teresa. I had known her for 20 years. She was a family lawyer. I told her everything and showed her all the documents and photos. She studied them quietly. Then she looked up. "Grace, this is explosive. I know. If you make this public, you'll destroy that family." "I know. Are you sure?" I stayed silent. "Think about Emily," she said. "It's not her fault. If you expose this on her wedding day, you'll ruin the most important day of her life." "And if I stay silent?" I asked. "What if I let my son marry into a family built on lies? What if Mr. Sterling keeps humiliating him? Using him?" Teresa sighed. "It's a hard decision." "No," I said. "It's not anymore." She looked at me. "What do you mean?" "Mr. Sterling challenged me. He plans to humiliate my son at his own wedding." "How do you know?" "I know men like him. They always need to show power." Teresa nodded. "So what will you do?" "I'll wait. I'll attend the wedding. And if he humiliates my son again, I'll reveal everything." She looked worried. "That will be brutal." "I know. Are you ready for the consequences?" I took a deep breath. "Yes. The truth is better than a lie, even when it hurts." She warned me he would deny everything and try to discredit me. "I have proof," I said. "You'll need witnesses too," she replied. I left her office clear-minded. I made copies of everything and prepared 3 envelopes, one for Daniel, one for Emily, and one for Mrs. Sterling. On Friday night, Daniel came for dinner. He was nervous and excited. "Mom, tomorrow's the day." I served him his favorite meal. "Are you ready?" "I think so." Emily's excited too, but her dad still wants control. He plans to give a long speech. That confirmed it. After he left, I stared at the envelopes for hours, asking myself if I was doing the right thing. Then I remembered everything: the families, the children, the lies, my son. Yes, justice is never easy, but it's necessary. That night, I dreamed of Mr. Sterling at the microphone. And of myself standing up to tell the truth. Saturday came with clear skies. I arrived early at the church. Daniel hugged me. He was nervous. "No matter what happens today," I told him, "I'm on your side." The ceremony was beautiful. Emily was radiant. Mr. Sterling looked proud, too proud. At the reception, the toasts began. Mr. Sterling took the microphone. He praised Emily, then mocked Daniel. "That boy is an idiot," he said. The room laughed. I watched my son's face fall. And Mr. Sterling smiled. Then I stood up. My legs shook, but I walked toward the stage. Everyone turned to look at me. Mr. Sterling saw me coming. His smile disappeared. "Mrs. Harper, what are you doing?" he asked. I didn't answer. I stepped onto the stage and grabbed the microphone from his hand. "Excuse me, Mr. Sterling, but now it's my turn to speak." The entire hall went completely silent. About 200 people stared at me. I took a deep breath and began. "Good evening. My name is Grace Harper. I am Toto's mother." My voice shook, but I stood firm. "A few minutes ago, Mr. Sterling called my son an idiot in front of all of you, in front of his own daughter, on her wedding day." No one spoke. And I want to make something clear. My son is not an idiot. My son is an honest, hardworking, decent man. He pays his debts. He keeps his word. He respects women. He loves deeply and sincerely. I looked straight at Mr. Sterling. "But you, Mr. Sterling, don't know what it means to be a real man." His face turned red. "How dare you?" "I dare because I have proof." I pulled documents from my purse and raised them high. "For the past few weeks, I have investigated your life, and I found things everyone here deserves to know." Mrs. Sterling stood up slowly, her face pale. "What are you saying?" I turned to the crowd. "Humphrey Sterling has 2 families." Gasps and whispers filled the room. "He has a wife here, Mrs. Sterling. And he has another woman, Veronica Campos, with whom he has 2 children, a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl." Mrs. Sterling covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. Mr. Sterling rushed toward me. "That's a lie. She's crazy." I stepped aside. "A lie? I have photos. Addresses. Bank transfers." I showed the pictures. People stood up to see. Mr. Sterling pays Veronica's rent. He pays his children's school fees. He pays for everything. And with what money? Money taken from his company, Sterling and Associates. Some employees in the room looked at each other in shock. But that's not all, I continued. Mr. Sterling is also a thief. Shut up, he shouted. 2 years ago, he won a contract to build 120 affordable homes. He received $25 million from the government. How many houses did he build? 40. He stole the rest. Angry voices rose around the room. Families paid deposits. They waited for years. They never got their homes because this man stole their money. Mr. Sterling tried to leave the stage, but people blocked him. I demand proof, he shouted. Here it is. I handed copies to nearby guests. They passed them around, bank statements, transfers, photos. Mrs. Sterling cried uncontrollably. Emily held her, shocked and trembling. Toto stared at me, frozen. I continued, Sterling and Associates is bankrupt. It owes more than $12 million. There are lawsuits, repossessions, and an investigation by the Anti-Corruption Bureau. In the coming months, Mr. Sterling will be arrested. Justice may be slow, but it always comes. I looked him straight in the eyes. You called my son an idiot. But the real idiot is you. You built your life on lies, and lies always fall apart. I placed the microphone down and stepped off the stage. I went to Toto and hugged him. I'm sorry, son. I couldn't let him humiliate you again. Toto hugged me back, crying. Mom, is all of that true? Yes, son. Every word. The hall exploded into chaos. People shouted, argued, and left. Mr. Sterling tried to defend himself, but no one listened. Mrs. Sterling left with her sisters. Emily ran after her. Toto stood in the middle of the hall, watching everything collapse. And I knew I had done the right thing, even if it hurt. There was no party, no music, no dancing, only the echo of truth bouncing off empty walls. Guests left one by one, angry, ashamed, curious, checking their phones. Half-eaten food sat on the tables. Champagne glasses remained untouched. White roses wilted under bright lights. In the middle of it all were us, Toto sitting with his head in his hands, Emily crying quietly, Mrs. Sterling being comforted, and Mr. Sterling, gone. He disappeared without apologies, without explanations, without looking back, like the coward he was. I knelt in front of my son. Son. He didn't answer. Look at me. He raised his face, eyes red, jaw tight. Why, Mom? Why did you do it? Because I couldn't let him hurt you again. But you destroyed my wedding. No, son. He destroyed it years ago. I only brought the truth out. You should have told me earlier. I tried, but you were in love. You didn't want to see the signs. He turned toward the window. Emily hates me now. No, she's hurting. Her family was already broken. He faced me again, anger burning. You had no right. Those words hurt more than anything. I had every right. I'm your mother. My job is to protect you. I need to be alone, he said quietly. And he left. My heart broke in two. Emily approached me, makeup smeared, eyes swollen. Is it true? She asked. Yes, she cried. I never knew. My dad has another family. I'm sorry. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't want to ruin your day. She sat down, devastated. I thought my dad was a hero. Turns out he's a liar. A thief. I held her hand. This isn't your fault. Mrs. Sterling came later. Alone. Is it true? She asked. Yes. She cried quietly. I suspected it for years. She took the envelope I gave her and reviewed everything. Her pain turned to anger, then silence. What will you do? I asked. He is no longer my husband, she said. She left. I left the hall at 11 p.m. I sat in my car and finally cried. I cried for my son. For Emily. For Mrs. Sterling. And for myself. I knew I had done the right thing, but I had lost my son's trust. Weeks passed. Months. Toto didn't call. Then the news broke. Mr. Sterling was arrested. Still, I felt no joy. Only sadness. Emily later thanked me. Mrs. Sterling filed for divorce. 3 months later, Toto called. Mom, we met. He hugged me. You were right. Emily smiled. We're getting married again, she said. Simple. Honest. No lies. I felt peace. Because defending the people you love is not always easy, but it is always right. And the truth, even when it hurts, always sets us free. But I learned to live with it, because inner peace is more valuable than other people's approval. Toto and Emily got married again 3 months later. It was a small ceremony in an old chapel downtown. Only 30 people were there, close family and real friends. There was no big hall and no fancy dinner. There was no list of expensive gifts. After the ceremony, we went to a small family restaurant. We ate barbecue, salad, and baked beans. We drank iced tea. We laughed. We cried. We shared stories. It was perfect because it was real. When Toto asked me to dance, he played the same classic song he had chosen for the first wedding. "Mom," he said softly as we danced. "Thank you for what, son?" I asked. "For teaching me that real love is not about appearances. It's built on truth, even when it hurts." I held him tight. "I will always protect you, son. Always." "I know, Mom. And I'm sorry I didn't understand sooner. There's nothing to forgive." We danced quietly. I felt something inside me heal, because my son was back, and that was all that mattered. Later that day, Emily came to find me. "Mrs. Harper, can I talk to you?" We walked to the restaurant garden. Flowers were blooming, and the air smelled of wet earth and purple blossoms. "What is it, honey?" I asked. "I want to tell you something about my dad." "What happened?" Emily took a deep breath. "I went to visit him in jail." I was surprised. "You did?" "Yes. 2 weeks ago." "How was it?" "Terrible, but necessary." She sat on a bench, and I sat beside her. When I entered the visiting room, I barely recognized him. He was thin and weak, wearing an orange prison uniform. He no longer looked powerful. "What did he say to you?" "At first, nothing. He just stared at me like he couldn't believe I was there." Emily wiped away a tear. Then he said, "Emily, forgive me. Forgive me for everything." "And what did you tell him?" I told him the truth. I said, "Dad, I don't know if I can forgive you. You lied to me my whole life. You lied to Mom. You lied to Veronica, to those children, and to the families who trusted you. You destroyed many lives, including your own." How did he react? He cried. It was the first time I ever saw my dad cry. He said I was right. He said he had been a coward. He said he built his life on lies because he was afraid of not being enough. Emily looked at me. He told me he was always scared people would discover who he really was. A poor boy from a small town who pretended to be rich his whole life, buying things he couldn't afford to impress people he didn't even care about. I felt a deep sadness. "And how did that make you feel?" I felt pity. I realized my dad wasn't a monster. He was a broken man who made terrible choices, and now he's paying for them. "Did you forgive him?" Emily shook her head. "Not yet. But someday I will. Holding anger only hurts me, not him." I smiled. "You're very wise, Emily. I learned from you," she said. "You taught me that the truth, even when it hurts, always sets us free." She held my hand. "Thank you, Mrs. Harper, for not staying silent, for defending Toto, and for protecting me too, even when I didn't ask for it." I hugged her. "I'll always be here for you." That night, when I got home, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of chamomile tea and looked out the window. The moon was full, lighting up the empty streets. I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about Mr. Sterling and how his empire of lies collapsed in one night. I thought about Mrs. Sterling and how she found the courage to divorce and start over at 55. I thought about Emily and how she turned pain into wisdom. And I thought about Toto and how he learned that real love doesn't need luxury, it only needs truth. And then I understood something. Justice doesn't always come quickly, but it always comes. A few weeks later, I received a letter from the Anti-Corruption Bureau. They asked me to testify as a witness in the case against Humphrey Sterling. I agreed. I went to the courthouse on a Tuesday morning. It was an old building with long hallways and gray walls. It smelled like old paper and reheated coffee. I sat in the waiting room. Other people were there, families who lost their savings, and employees who hadn't been paid for months. An older woman approached me. "You're Grace Harper, aren't you?" "Yes. I'm Martha Hernandez. My husband and I paid a down payment for a house 3 years ago. We never got it. We lost everything." I stood up and hugged her. "I'm so sorry." She shook her head. "No, thank you. Because of you, that man is finally paying for what he did." Others came to thank me and share their stories. That's when I realized I hadn't only protected my son, I had given a voice to people who had been ignored for years. When it was my turn, I entered the courtroom. The judge, lawyers, and Mr. Sterling were there. He was handcuffed. When he looked at me, there was no pride left in his eyes, only defeat. I answered every question. I told the whole truth. I showed the documents, the photos, and the bank records. When I finished, the judge thanked me. "Mrs. Harper, your testimony has been very valuable." I left knowing I had done the right thing, not only as a mother, but as a citizen. 2 months later, Mr. Sterling was sentenced to 12 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. Emily called me. "He's in jail now. He'll be there a long time. How do you feel?" I asked. Sad, but relieved. Justice finally came. She told me her mother was doing well. She had opened a small craft shop and felt free for the first time in her life. Then Emily added, Veronica moved away with her children. She started over. She wrote to me to apologize. She didn't know the full truth either. What did you tell her? That it wasn't her fault. And that someday I hope we can meet. Those kids are my siblings, and they deserve family. I was amazed. Emily, you're incredible. She smiled. I just learned that life is too short to hold grudges. Real family isn't only about blood. It's about truth. That night, I opened a shoebox from my closet. Inside were old photos of Toto as a child. I looked at them and remembered the hard times, the nights without enough money, the cheap meals, the questions he used to ask. And I understood that every sacrifice had been worth it, because my son grew into a good, honest man. One Sunday afternoon, Toto and Emily came to see me. "Mom, we have news," Toto said, smiling. Emily placed her hand on her stomach. I gasped. "I'm going to be a grandmother?" "Yes," they laughed, hugging me. I cried tears of joy. After so much pain, there was hope. After so much truth, there was peace. That night, I wrote in my journal, "Life doesn't always give us what we deserve. But when we are brave, when we defend the truth, and protect the people we love, life gives us something better. It gives us inner peace. Greater than." And in the end, I realized that this was the only thing that truly mattered. I closed my journal, turned off the light, and slept peacefully. For the first time in months, I slept without worry. Months went by. Emily's belly grew bigger day by day. Everyone was excited. Daniel painted the baby's room blue. He bought a crib and read books about being a father. And I knitted small baby clothes, prepared blankets, and imagined what it would feel like to be a grandmother. One day, Emily called me. "Mrs. Harper, I want to ask you something." "Go ahead, honey," I said. "When the baby is born, can you be there at the birth? My mom will also be there, and I think it would be beautiful if both grandmothers were together." My eyes filled with tears. "It would be an honor," I replied. The baby was born in March. He was a healthy, beautiful boy, with Daniel's eyes and Emily's nose. When I held him for the first time, everything else disappeared. He was so small, so delicate, so perfect. "What will you name him?" I asked. Daniel and Emily looked at each other and smiled. "We're going to name him Liam," Daniel said. "Liam Harper?" I asked. "Yes," Emily said. "After Father Liam, the priest who married us. He told us something that day we never forgot." "What did he say?" I asked. Emily replied, "He said, truth is the foundation of real love. Without truth, there is no trust. And without trust, there is no love." Daniel added, "We want our son to grow up knowing that truth always matters most." I hugged my grandson tightly. "Welcome to the world, Liam," I whispered. "You were born into a family that loves you, protects you, and will always tell you the truth." Mrs. Sterling was there too. She walked up to me and smiled softly. "Thank you, Grace," she said. "For what?" I asked. "For saving me. For helping my family escape from a life built on lies. I didn't have the courage, but you did." I held her hand. "We all have our moment," I said. "Yours came when you chose to divorce. Mine came when I chose to speak up." We hugged. 2 women, 2 survivors, 2 grandmothers. That night, when I got home, I sat in my living room. I looked at a photo Emily had given me. It was a picture of the 4 of us, Daniel, Emily, baby Liam, and me, smiling. I thought about the long journey we had taken, from that painful night at the country club to this peaceful moment. And then I understood something deeply. Justice is not revenge. Justice is restoration. Humphrey Sterling deserved to face the consequences of his lies. Mrs. Sterling deserved a life built on truth. Emily deserved to know who her father truly was. And Daniel deserved to be protected. That was justice. And I had played a part in it, not because I was special, but because I chose not to stay silent. A few weeks later, I met one of the families hurt by Mr. Sterling. We crossed paths at the grocery store. "You're Grace Harper, right?" the woman asked. "Yes," I said. "Thank you for speaking up. Because of you, we recovered some of our money. Not all, but some." "I'm really glad," I told her. She sighed and said, "I stayed quiet for years too. My husband cheated on me, and I said nothing because I was afraid of being alone, afraid I couldn't raise my kids." I nodded. "But when I saw what you did," she continued, "when I saw you tell the truth even though it cost you, I found the courage to confront my husband and leave." Tears filled her eyes. "I live alone now, but I live in peace. And that peace is priceless." I hugged her. "I'm so happy for you," I said. That conversation stayed with me. I realized my actions didn't just protect my family, they inspired others to speak up too. And if I had to do it all again, I would. 1,000 times over. Because protecting the people you love is not a choice. It's a responsibility. And the truth, even when it hurts, is always better than a lie. 2 years passed. 2 years since I spoke into that microphone. 2 years since Humphrey Sterling's world fell apart. And in those 2 years, I learned something important. Karma isn't revenge, it's balance. Life gives back exactly what we put into it. One Saturday afternoon, while watching Liam play at the park, Emily called me. "Mrs. Harper, can you come over? I need to talk to you." "Did something happen?" I asked. "Yes," she said, "but I'd rather explain in person." When I arrived, Emily looked tired but calm. We sat down, and she made lemon tea. "My dad sent me a letter from jail," she said. "What did he say?" I asked. She showed me the letter. The handwriting was shaky. She read it aloud. In the letter, Humphrey admitted everything, his lies, his fear, his regret. He wrote about losing everything and realizing too late what truly mattered. When she finished reading, we were both crying. "What will you do?" I asked her gently. "I don't know," she said. "Part of me wants to forgive him. Another part still hurts. Forgiveness takes time," I told her. "It's a journey, and only you can decide when you're ready." She nodded. "I don't hold a grudge anymore," she said. "Holding anger only hurts me, not him." I hugged her. "You're very strong," I said. "I learned from the best," she replied. Years passed. Liam grew into a bright, happy little boy. Daniel advanced at work. Emily built a meaningful career. And I remained the same, but calmer, lighter, and at peace. One day, Emily told me she had visited her father one last time. She said goodbye, not with anger, but with honesty. And before she left, she told him, "I hope you find peace, but that peace has to come from within you." Later, she told me his final words to her. "I once called Daniel foolish, but the real fool was always me. I had everything that mattered, and I lost it chasing things that meant nothing." And in that moment, I knew the lesson was complete. Greater than we stayed quiet because those words already said everything. Humphrey Sterling died 6 months later. He died in the prison infirmary, alone. No family, no friends, just a guard who found him in the morning. Emily received the news. She cried, not because she missed him, but because she mourned the father she could have had and never did. The funeral was small. Only Emily, Mrs. Sterling, and Emily's sisters were there. Daniel didn't attend. He asked me if he should go. "It's your choice, son," I told him. "But remember, respect is for the living, not the dead. If you go, go for Emily, not for him." Daniel chose not to go, and Emily understood. After the funeral, Emily called me. "Mrs. Harper, do you know what the saddest part was?" "What?" I asked. "It was just us at the funeral. All those people he called friends. All those business owners and politicians. None of them came. They were never friends. They were just contacts. And contacts disappear when the power is gone." "You're right," I said. "My dad died alone," Emily continued. "Without money, without family, without anything. Everything he built was taken away. That's karma, honey," I said softly. "Not revenge. Balance. Your father planted lies and harvested loneliness." Emily sighed. "You know, Mrs. Harper, a few years ago I would have said my dad was successful. That he had everything. But now I see he had nothing. Because what matters isn't what you have, it's what you leave behind. And my dad didn't leave anything good. But you will, I told her. How do you know? She asked. Because you learned from his mistakes. Because you're raising Liam with love, truth, and values. And that is a legacy. One Sunday afternoon, the whole family came over for dinner at my house. Daniel, Emily, Liam, and Mrs. Sterling were all there. I made my spicy stew, everyone's favorite. We ate, laughed, and shared stories. Then Liam, who was 4, asked, "Grandma, why didn't I ever meet my other grandpa?" The room went silent. I looked at Emily. She nodded, giving me permission to answer. I knelt in front of Liam and looked into his eyes. Because your other grandpa made bad choices, my love. And bad choices have consequences. What are consequences? He asked. They're what happens when we do something wrong, I said. Life teaches us so we can learn. Did he learn? Liam asked. Yes, I said. But too late. Liam thought for a moment. Then I'm going to do good things so I have good consequences. We all smiled. Exactly, my love. Exactly. I hugged him tightly and thought. This child will change the world because he was raised with truth. That night, after everyone left, I sat in my rocking chair. I looked at the photos on the wall, pictures of Daniel as a child, his second wedding, the real one, and Liam on his birthdays. I thought about the long road we had traveled, from that painful night at the country club to this moment of peace. And I understood something deep. Karma isn't magic. It doesn't fall from the sky. It's the result of our choices. Mr. Sterling chose lies, theft, and betrayal. Life gave him loneliness, sickness, and death in a cell. I chose truth. I chose to protect my son. I chose dignity over appearance. And life gave me peace, family, and real love. That is justice, not revenge. Balance. A few months later, Emily invited me to a conference. A conference about what? I asked. Women entrepreneurs, she said. I want you to come with me. Why? Because you inspire me. We went. There were about 200 women there. Emily went on stage to speak about architecture, but instead, she said something unexpected. Before I talk about my work, she said, I want to talk about my mother-in-law, Grace Harper. She pointed at me. Everyone turned to look. I blushed. 3 years ago, Emily continued. My life fell apart. I discovered my father had lived a lie. I was lost. But Grace taught me something. She taught me that truth, even when it hurts, makes us stronger. That doing what's right is never easy, but always worth it. She stood up at my wedding and spoke the truth when everyone expected silence. And even though I didn't understand it then, I do now. She saved me. The women applauded. Emily hugged me afterward. Thank you for being my example, she said. I cried, realizing my choice had changed more lives than just my own. Now, 3 years later, I know this, life always brings justice. Not fast, not the way we expect. But always. Humphrey Sterling had power, money, and praise. But he died without love, peace, or legacy. I had none of those things. But I have my family. I have peace. And I know I did the right thing. 5 years have passed. I am now 60. Daniel is 33. Liam is 5. Emily is pregnant again, with a girl. They are naming her Grace. I cried for hours. Why Grace? I asked. Emily held my hands. Because we want our daughter to grow up knowing there was a woman in this family who chose truth over silence. Who stood up when it was hard. Who was brave. I couldn't speak. I just hugged them and cried with joy. This morning, I sat by the window with my coffee and watched the sunrise. The birds sang. The sky turned pink and orange. I thought about my whole life. The hard years, the fear, the struggle, and I knew I had chosen right. I opened my journal and read the words I wrote years ago. Life doesn't always give us what we deserve. But when we defend the truth and protect those we love, life gives us something better, inner peace. I smiled and wrote one last message, for any woman who might read it someday. Choose truth, even when it hurts. Because silence protects lies, and truth builds real life. I closed the journal, breathed deeply, and felt complete. That afternoon, Liam ran into my arms and said, Grandma, you're my hero. And in that moment, I knew, everything had been worth it. Greater than flowers were blooming around us. The air smelled of wet soil and fresh blossoms. Mrs. Harper, there's something I want to tell you. Tell me, honey. I went to visit my dad's grave. How was it? It was good. I took flowers. I sat there for a while and talked to him. What did you say? Emily took a deep breath. I told him I forgave him. I stayed quiet and listened. I said, Dad, for a long time I hated you. I blamed you. I even wished you had never existed. But today, I understand something. You were human. You had wounds. You were afraid. And you made bad choices. Choices that hurt many people. But holding anger against you only hurts me. So today, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Her voice cracked. And you know what, Mrs. Harper? When I said those words, it felt like something heavy lifted off my chest. Like I could finally breathe. I hugged her. Forgiveness isn't for the other person, I said softly. It's for us. It sets us free. I know, she said. And I learned that from you. You taught me that standing for the truth doesn't mean holding hatred. It means living with dignity. Exactly, honey. Exactly. We stood there holding each other under the flowering trees. 2 women, 2 generations, 2 lives connected by truth. And in that moment, I understood something. My legacy wasn't only truth. It was also forgiveness. Justice without revenge. Balance without hate. That night, after everyone left, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea. I turned on the TV. A program was on about women who changed their communities. One of the women being interviewed was Martha Hernandez, the woman who lost her savings because of Mr. Sterling. I recognized her right away. The interviewer asked her how she moved forward after losing everything. Martha smiled. There was a woman who inspired me, she said. Her name is Grace Harper. She had the courage to tell the truth when everyone expected silence. And that taught me that it's never too late to defend what is right. And what did you do? The interviewer asked. I faced my situation, Martha said. I went to court. I fought back. I recovered some of my money. With that, my husband and I bought land and built our house ourselves. Now we live in peace, because our home is built on truth, not lies. The interviewer nodded. What would you say to other women going through hard times? Martha looked straight into the camera. Don't be afraid to tell the truth. Don't be afraid to defend what's right. Silence doesn't protect us, it protects lies. And we deserve to live in truth. I turned off the TV and cried. But these were not sad tears. They were tears of joy. I realized that my actions had inspired other women. Mothers, grandmothers, daughters, to speak up, to choose dignity, to live in truth. And that was my legacy. Today, as I write this, I am 60 years old. But I feel younger than ever. I finally understand why I'm here. I wasn't born to be rich. I wasn't born to be famous. I wasn't born to be perfect. I was born to be brave. To tell the truth when others stayed silent. To protect the people I love. And I believe I succeeded. When I look at my son, I see an honest, hardworking man. When I look at my daughter-in-law, I see strength, wisdom, and kindness. And when I look at my grandson, I see hope. I see the future. I see light. That is what I leave behind. Not money, not property, not fame. I leave values. I leave truth. I leave love. And that is worth more than any fortune. Last week, Liam asked me something. Grandma, when you're really, really old, are you going to die? Yes, my love. One day. Then I won't see you anymore? Not with your eyes, I said, kneeling in front of him, but you will with your heart. How? Every time you tell the truth, I'll be there. Every time you defend someone you love, I'll be there. Every time you're brave, I'll be there. How will I know? He asked. You'll feel warmth in your chest. You'll feel peace. And you'll know it's me. Liam smiled. Then you'll never leave. Never, my love. Never. I hugged him, knowing it was true. Because legacies don't die. They change form. Tonight, as I look at the stars, I think about my life. And I think about the women who may read my story. This is what I would tell them. Don't be afraid to be brave. Don't be afraid to tell the truth. Don't be afraid to stand for what's right, even when people call you crazy. The world needs brave women. Women who speak when silence is expected. Women who say, enough, when others say, endure. Women who choose dignity over comfort. Because those women change the world, one truth at a time, one family at a time, one generation at a time. If my story helps even one woman open her eyes, if it helps one mother protect her child, if it helps one daughter escape a lie, then everything was worth it. Every tear, every fear, every hard night. Because in the end, what matters is not how long we live, it's how we live. I chose truth. I chose dignity. I chose love. And this is my story. The story of an ordinary woman who did something extraordinary, not because she was special, but because she refused to stay silent. Tomorrow, I'll see Daniel and Emily. We'll go to the park with Liam. We'll eat ice cream. We'll laugh. We'll live. Because families that truly love each other do exactly that. They live, they love, they forgive, and they grow. And I'll keep being the grandmother who tells stories, who bakes cookies, who hugs tight, and who teaches that truth is always better than lies, dignity is always better than appearance, and real love is always better than fake love. That is my legacy. And I am at peace. So if you're reading this, remember. You can be brave too. You can tell the truth. You can defend what is right. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting even when you're afraid. And if a 55-year-old woman could stand up at a wedding and end a life built on lies, then you can stand up in your own life and say, enough. This ends here. Because you deserve truth. You deserve peace. You deserve dignity. We all do. Do you like my story, and which city are you listening from? Tell me in the comments. Thank you so much for your support. I'm looking forward to your comments. On the screen, you'll see 2 more life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story, with love and respect.